Behind the headlines, some 30 million adults in this country are functionally illiterate, meaning they read very little in English or nothing at all. Another 30 million read at lower elementary school levels. Functional illiteracy prevents people from reading traffic signs, filling out forms to apply for jobs, or reading the labels on boxes at the grocery store. To the Contrary examines how this affects family life and the economy in the United States.
There are nearly 1.5 million immigrants to the U.S. each year, an estimated 2/3 legal, 1/3 illegal. This group has a huge impact on the adult illiteracy rate, although it's rarely mentioned in media reports on immigration. David Harvey is president of Pro-Literacy Worldwide.
A lot of people do not believe these statistics, but they are real. And they speak to several problems: failing schools, people with learning disabilities, and immigrants who are not literate in their native language and not literate in English. It means that they are cut out of the American dream and the American workforce. They are filling the lowest levels of jobs and wages and salaries that people earn in this country. They're in the service sector, working in hotels, cleaning rooms, and other service sector jobs like that.
And while these immigrants lose out, they also impose costs on American taxpayers. In a 2006 white paper on adult illiteracy, Pro-Literacy wrote, quote, "In the U.S., a huge gap exists between federal funding for adult literacy and the actual monies needed to meet the needs of local communities," end quote. Pro-Literacy recommended doubling the $1 billion states and the federal government already spend for such adult classes. Although Spanish-speaking immigrants make up the largest group of non-English speakers, census figures show, all told, some 380 languages from around the world are spoken in the U.S. This adds to public education costs. Robert Justic has studied immigration's impact on public schools in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
According to the Board of Education statement in Elizabeth, 43 languages are spoken in that school district, which is quite a challenge to teachers. It slows down the education process, impacting students who do speak English. The schools are way under-resourced in being able to provide English education to those students.
Children of parents who don't have a lot of education, the parents themselves are not as able to help their children with things like homework, and it's more difficult for the parents to understand what's expected of them. Even when they want to be very concerned, it's just that they don't understand what's going on at the school, probably because they don't speak English, probably because they don't have a lot of education.
The U.S. spends an estimated $30 billion educating children who don't speak English. Aside from holding these kids back in learning, illiteracy also contributes to juvenile crime because it is tied so closely to poverty. Living in the U.S. without speaking the native language is in many instances a ticket to prison for young people. Pro-Literacy reports 85% of juveniles in the court system are illiterate. For functionally illiterate adults, Pro-Literacy tries to fill in where taxpayers cannot support demand for English education. Barbara Biba runs a program in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Focus primarily on survival English, English that will help the parents when they're interacting with their students in schools, teachers' conferences we work closely with.
Pro-Literacy recently held a workshop on teaching English as a second language at a conference outside of Washington, D.C.
Muy bien. Hablas muy bien español, ¿eh?
The economic consequences of a high rate of adult illiteracy are severe. Large corporations save money by hiring workers who will work for lower pay, but they also struggle to accommodate workers who can't speak English.
They cannot perform on the job if they cannot read in their own language. They can't read manuals. They can't read personnel documents. They can't read applications.
The companies are struggling with these issues. Companies are developing training programs and manuals in pictures so that they are helping to train their workers on basic aspects of the jobs that the companies need them to do.
Let's look at the construction industry, for example, which accounts for roughly 16% of the gross domestic product. There are between 7 and 8 million construction workers, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. A sizable proportion of them are undocumented.
And it's kind of scary to think of them working in construction without being able to follow the, unless they have someone who speaks their language. And there aren't that many interpreters available, so they need to learn.
That is equally true for the millions of functionally illiterate adults trying to take care of their health and the health of their families.
People who don't have basic reading, writing, and math skills are putting their lives and their health at risk if they can't follow basic instructions for health.
It's not only immigrants themselves who may be hurt. The hidden consequences to American society at large are sometimes surprising.
The current mortgage crisis we have in this country is fueled in part by people who did not understand the mortgage agreements that they were signing. And that is getting a lot of publicity in this country. What you don't hear people talking about is the fact that the people who sign these agreements couldn't read them.